Hi, I'm Danielle. Let me time myself. I'm gonna try to not rush through this. The last time that I led, I was 60 days sober. Today I have, I don't know, 580 days. Um, so I am grateful to be here, grateful to this meeting for getting me sober, and keeping me sober. I guess I'll just kind of start at the beginning. um, so I'm young. I am 24 and I think I'm probably the youngest person in this room. Um, and when I got sober, I was 23, shortly after my 23rd birthday. So I really didn't have much legal drinking time um, out in the world. I did used to go to bars when I was 19. And whenever, I guess I was kind of buddy buddy with the bartender at this dive bar down the street from where I worked. And my coworkers would vouch for me. And then one time she was like, "Oh, the security's on us, so you just got to flash me something." So I would show her like my debit card for the cameras, and she'd be like, "Cool, you're in." Um, so I was kind of drinking in bars for since I turned 18, 19. As a kid, I I grew up with alcoholic parents, and my parents like to call themselves functioning alcoholics. Um, I suppose they are. They don't they can hold a job and they have friends. All of their friends are drinkers, but I suppose they're functioning, and they always labeled themselves as such when we were children because they kind of mushed us in with their mishaps. And I remember I always told myself I was never going to drink because of my parents. I was never going to smoke a cigarette. I'm never going to do any of that stuff. Um, and the first time I remember like really being affected or impacted by my parents drinking, I was 10 years old and we were on vacation in Hawaii. And I was a very depressed kid. So I guess I ruined that vacation for them. My dad likes to hold it against me to this day. And I remember my mom, when she drinks, she gets very angry at my father. And I think my parents have a little bit of a different story than the traditional like broken parent relationship where the father is beating on the mother. My mom used to beat my dad up, and she pulled me and my 8-year-old brother at the time aside, and she pulled us out of the hotel room and said, "Your dad's trying to murder me. We're getting on a flight right now." And I didn't know any better. And that pattern ended up continuing throughout all of my teenage years. There were times where I had to go and pick up my mom after she had driven somewhere, and was blacked out drunk. And it was very much something that I didn't want to be. And as I grew up into my young adulthood and I got a job when I turned 18 in the service industry, um, I just kind of fell into it. And it was the first place that would hire me that I found on Craigslist. So I started working in restaurants. I worked in restaurants for 6 years. And if anybody has worked in the service industry or knows anything about it, it's rampant with drugs, alcohol, and it's very incestuous. Everybody sleeps with each other. Everybody is doing lines in the bathroom, and I just kind of became a part of that. And I think that it was very much for me just the norm of being 20, 21, 22, and all of my friends did it and they weren't doing the shit that I was doing. And it made me kind of, after a couple years, kind of feel like maybe I'm doing something wrong because I'm hurting people. And maybe I should probably cut back on the drinking. And I would talk to my therapist at the time and say, I want to quit drinking, or I want to moderate my drinking. Can we work on that? And she would be like, well, let's make a solid plan. And then I would say, well, I don't really want to, and I'm too scared to quit. Because if I quit drinking, then I'm going to lose all my friends. Fast forward the tape, that's what happened. But it's for the better, I guess. I'm sober, so I guess, yes, I don't want to be like negative towards sobriety. I still have a lot of like apathy for myself and disdain for sobriety and grieving of my past. And because I'm 24 and I'm all my all my friends are online now. Um, but I just there was a lot of things that I did um, that I told myself I should probably quit and didn't. And when I think back on it, it's really sad. Um, you know, I think I wonder why me a lot of the time, and I think a lot of us wonder why me. And my brother isn't like this. None of my cousins are like this. My grandparents aren't like this. So I don't. I think a lot of my like alcoholism is very situational, but also just a product of the home that I grew up in. And there were I did a lot of things. Um, One of the first times I remember getting really fucked up, I ended up in somebody's basement. I don't know who it was. And it turns out with the people I was with, we were squatting in a home and we used their hot tub. And then a bunch of people fucked each other. And I was like, oh, just a Tuesday night. And There was one time I went out with my friends, and this was somebody that I did a lot of coke with. And we went out to a bar, and I don't remember anything really, but the story I've been told is they put me in an Uber. I threw up in the Uber. She had to cover the cleaning bill. And then she put me on her couch. I pissed on her couch in the middle of the night because I was so drunk. And then when I woke up in the morning, I was still drunk. And I was threatening her because she stole the rest of my cocaine. And she was like, I stole the rest of your cocaine because you pissed on my couch, you dumb bitch. And that was the kind of fights that I was getting in with my friends. And that was something that like we made up over, but then we made up over doing lines. We were like, oh, like it's all good. Let's just snort some coke and have a drink, and like we're besties still. And then things kind of started to like I did a lot more shit like that. Like I would end up at random people's homes and people were doing DMT and doing all kinds of stuff. And I was like 20 and I was like, what? I don't know what this is. And people are smoking out of crack pipes. And I'm like, okay, I'm just here. I'm here along for the ride. I'm having fun. I'm safe. And just justifying all of this to myself. I did a lot of bad things to my body. I treated myself like shit. I have a lot of sexual trauma and abuse as a result of such actions. And I blame a lot of that on me because I feel like I deserved it since I put myself in those situations. I got too drunk. Therefore, somebody fucked me when I didn't want them to. I deserve that because I put myself in a situation that could allow them to do that. And these were people that I knew, sometimes people that I didn't know. And it's just, I think I just accepted that that's what the world is like. And that's the kind of people that I surrounded myself with. And that was my life. And that was the direction that it was going. I had a friend that didn't, I've shared about her many times in this meeting. She's on my mind a lot. She didn't really drink and she didn't do drugs anymore. She was clean off of coke because she had a problem with it in the past. She would have me over a lot. She was very kind. She went to bed early one night. I was hanging out with her boyfriend, who I was also very close with. Things escalated, and she came out in the kitchen, and him and I were having sex, and that's the last time that I ever spoke to her. Obviously, she told me to go fuck myself. Basically, later on, she had a child with him. So if she wants to forgive him and didn't want to forgive me, that's not my business. And it's something that I've really had to come to terms with. That was like a big turning point for me because I had just started seeing my girlfriend at the time. I told her about it. She was crushed that I had slept with somebody else in a blackout. And I remember being so distraught. I tried to drive to a nearby park, and I was hyperventilating so hard that my legs seized up. And luckily, I was able to pull over into a gas station parking lot before I crashed my car. But I was like, this is one of the most serious panic attacks I've ever had. And I don't even think I took a break from drinking after that. I don't even think I took a day off, which makes me really sad to think about because there's a lot of things that I feel like were wake up calls or should have been wake up calls. And I just justified it by being set in my ways and I'm young and this is my life and it's okay. The day that I decided to change something about myself was September 8th of 2021. I was about a year into my relationship. I cheated on her all the time. Well, we weren't like officially dating, and so I was like, "Oh, it's okay for me to go sleep with other people," and there was just this one day we were at a baseball game, me and some of my friends. This guy that we had met at a bar previously happened to be there. We saw on his Instagram that he was there. We hit him up. Things really escalated. I ended up in a hotel room with strangers doing coke and having an orgy, and I woke up the next day, lied through my fucking teeth about it, and then I was so distraught, so suicidal that I felt like, okay, I need to come clean. Because the moment that I saw like my partner's face, I was like, I can't lie anymore. I can't do this anymore. It hurt me too bad. And a lot of the reason I think I got sober in the first place was for somebody else. It was for her. And it was to save the relationship that I had built with this person who I've been friends with for 15 years because I don't want to lose her out of my life. And I stayed sober for myself and for the community that I've built and for the friends that trust and believe in me that I can do this. I went to outpatient over Zoom because it was COVID times, and I was calling suicide hotlines maybe 4 or 5 times a day. I didn't want to leave my home. Sobriety didn't make things better for me. It made things a lot worse, especially for the first several months. I didn't leave my bedroom. And I remember my mom took me on a walk one day because she wanted me to get outside and get some fresh air. I think I hadn't been out of the house in about 2 weeks, and I couldn't make it down the hill that I live on top of. And I laid in the middle of the street and screamed that I wanted a car to run over me. And my mom was like, I'm gonna have to call 911 if you don't get the fuck up. And she got frustrated with me and she started yelling at me. She was like, I have to get back to work and I don't want to deal with your shit. And I was like, I'm a fucking burden and everybody hates me and nothing's getting better now that I'm sober. It was very trying times. Honestly, probably like one of the most traumatic times of my life was actually deciding to be a sober person because everything was just, and I think a lot of people probably relate to, like, everything was just easy before, because when things got shitty, you just piled more things on top of it to hide the shit. And there's just like, before you know it, there's 1,000 rugs, and under each layer of rug is a pile of shit. And it's like Princess and the Pea. I don't know. I just can't. It was hard. And I know a lot of people are like, I wish that I got sober in my 20s because I have 40 years worth of shit that I kept piling on. And I have this resentment towards being sober at 24 because it feels so fucking isolating. It's really hard. And I made it this far, and I'll have 19 months of continuous sobriety this week. And a lot of it is thanks to not only AA, but like this group in particular and the people that I've met through it. I don't think if I had formed the relationships that I had formed that I would still be sticking around in the program or honestly be sober at all. I probably would have given up by now if I hadn't formed friendships, as they say, the fellowship of AA. And that's all thanks to this room, honestly. And I shared my 12-minute speaker meeting on like my 60th day of sobriety, and it was the last spur of the moment thing, and I couldn't fill up 4 minutes. I just word vomited. I don't know what to say. I'm not worthy. Here it is. And now that I've had a year and a half to think of my life, I guess, And maybe I'm more self-indulgent now because I'm like, oh wow, this room full of 50 people is going to listen to me talk. I still don't feel like I have anything worthy to say. Um, and I hope that somebody got something out of what I had to say. And I know that my story is like a lot similar to a lot of the people in here. It's just on a different timeline. And there really is no recipe for being an addict. And I've had to learn that myself. I didn't drink a liter a day. I wasn't even a daily drinker, but it was damaging to my life. The drugs were damaging to my life. I don't even think weed was damaging to my life, but I stopped smoking weed 500 and something days ago because I wanted to not have anything interfering with my conscience. And I think like if you've made the decision to come into these rooms for one reason or another, that's qualifying enough. And I have to remind myself of that a lot because I feel like an outsider and that I'm not good enough. And I guess honestly, Mary just asking me to even speak and wanting to hear more about me makes me feel like I am worthy enough. And I hope that everybody knows that you guys are all worthy enough to be addicts. And maybe that's a silly thing to say. I'm sure people don't think that. Maybe it's only me. Um, but yeah, I was filled up 15 minutes somehow magically. So um, I think I'll end it there. And I'm just happy to be here. And I've spent all 19 months in this room. And as long as this room is around, I'll be here. So thank you all for listening to me. And I love you.